Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody who are going to be here. I could spend months on this topic that we're going to talk about today, which are the very important critical steps you need to build a brilliant career. But I've got only an hour, and I'm going to pack as much action into this as I possibly can for you today. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to think about these questions and think about, do you know, whether it's feeling now or perhaps even over the last year or so, have you felt any of these? So have you ever felt that you don't know where your career is going? Yeah, you're just there. You don't know, you don't have any sight of your career. Do you feel ever that you've actually fallen into a career and it's not what you really necessarily wanted to do? Have you really ever meant to have a career plan, but kind of really didn't know where to start? Or, think, other people have got their career sorted where you still very much feel in the dark around where your career currently is. Maybe you don't know where you're going, and you wouldn't even know how to get there, even if you did know where you're going. Now, because I'm going to try and share with you as much as I can in a structure on how you can actually have a career plan and grow your career, no matter where it actually is, within your current organization, whether it's in somebody else's organization, it doesn't matter. So let's move on then. The objectives of the session today, what I want to share with you is to understand what a structured career plan is and why it's important. I'm going to share with you the 4 critical steps to career planning. And we're going to discover the first tentative steps that you can take to develop an action plan to take your career to brand new heights, to help it take off. So we're going to be on a roller coaster ride today. So my question to you then is, why is a career planning important? Why do you think career planning is important? Maybe you don't. I hope you do. But if you want to be somewhere, you have to plan it. It's like anything, if do you plan for Diwali or does it just happen? You plan for it, yeah? It's all about making sure that we plan. And as a career planning actually gives you a roadmap to your future. It really does tell you where you're going, and it really will help you in that direction. How are you going to get from point A, where you are now, to point B, to point C, and beyond wherever you want to go? That's not actually going to happen unless we actually have a career plan. There's a famous saying that Hillary Clinton said, and I think she borrowed it from a few people, which is, fail to plan and you plan to fail. And she's absolutely right. And this doesn't just stand for career planning, but it goes for absolutely everything. So what does a career plan actually look like? Well, I've divided this into 4 key stages for you. And we're going to go through, or spend today going through, each of these stages so you know what a great career plan can actually look like. Now, stage 1, if you like, is all about knowing yourself. This is the first step in your career journey. If you don't know yourself, how on earth are you going to be able to plan a career? So it's all about knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, knowing what you're capable of, knowing how you're going to get there. Then we go on to phase 2, or step number 2, which is know your actions. So what actions are you actually going to be able to take as a result of your career plan that you've got ahead of you? Step 3 is all about planning the actions. So now we actually know what the actions could be. We now need to think about exactly how do we plan those actions? How do we breathe life into those actions? And then step number 4 is create your future. So this is the 4th step. The important thing to remember with these steps is you can go back on any of the steps at any point in time. You can remodel them, you can actually revisit them, and you can rewrite them. but it's important to remember that we have the 4 steps. And I haven't found an easier way to work out a career plan than using these 4 steps. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to dive into each of these steps for you and share with you. Each of these steps have got like sub steps to them, and I'm going to share those with you and some actions that you can take around them. So let's go into the first one first, which is all about knowing yourself. So what is knowing yourself all about? Knowing yourself is all about your values. So knowing what your values are. It's all about making sure you know what your capabilities are. So what you're capable of doing. It's about knowing your personality, because some personalities are suited to some professions, others are absolutely not. And then the 4th step under know yourself is about knowing your ambitions. So I'm going to take you through each one of these and share some information with you. So the very first one, knowing your values. So does anybody in our audience today know what their values are, know what their personal values are? You can say yes or no. And if you know what your personal values are, then you could type a couple of them in the chat box for me. You know, values are generally kind of described as those things that are absolutely important to you. They're what drive you forward. They kind of hinge behind your purpose, the reason why you exist. It's personal values really take control of who you are. And these are things that we have normally formed for ourselves as early as an age of, you know, our early teens. We may not have been able to put words to them, but we certainly would know what our values are. Brilliant, Anushika. You've said integrity, accountability, ethics orientated. These are brilliant values to have. Thank you so much. Most of the organizations that we work for as well have values. And you may find that you end up looking for jobs or organizations that have your values aligned. And that's very important for job satisfaction. Let's talk about the next one then, about your capabilities. So what kind of capabilities do you have? What are you capable of doing? Really the abilities that you have in order to do what you do. So for an example, there's no point in being longing to be a presenter if you don't have any presentation skills. It's a capability requirement for the job. You know, if you're not a very confident person, there's no point in aspiring to be perhaps a TV presenter or a radio announcer. You know, the capabilities are really critical to our role. So understanding what our capabilities are and listing those out really will help you know yourself and know what future careers are open to you. The next thing is all around about your personality. You know, part of your career plan has to reflect the person that you are. You know, there's no point, for example, in wanting to be or aspiring to be a trainer if you're not the kind of person who has the personality that can connect with people. It's really important that, you know, as a trainer that you do that. Or perhaps there's no point in being a project manager if your personality doesn't allow you to speak to stakeholders and gather information from them. You know, using a personality inventory is a really good way of actually understanding what your personality is. And there's plenty of tools you can use out there on the internet. If you just Google, you know, personality test or personality quiz or personality assessment, there will be loads that actually come up. There's a really good one called 16 Personalities, which will actually help you understand your personality and even recommend what kind of careers will suit your personality. And the final one is all about your ambitions. Do you know, what is your goal? Do you aspire to be a CEO of an organization? You know, personally, that's nothing that I could ever think about doing. I could never be a CEO. You know, it's just not my style. You know, my ambition and in my area of expertise around employee engagement, my personal ambition is to ensure as many colleagues fall in love with their organization as possible. You know, that's an ambition, that I have a goal. You could also, I guess, call it part of your purpose. Why do you exist? Do you want to spread the word, or are you into educating people? Or is your ambition just doing the job that you're doing? There's nothing wrong with that. That could be the place that you are in this moment in time. But if you do have aspirations and you do have ambitions, it's worth thinking about it now. The know yourself section is really saying to you, how can you plan your career? How can you move forward unless you know yourself and know your values, know your capability, know your personality, and know what your ambitions are? So this is the very first place to start. So that's the know yourself. Once you know yourself, it's all about knowing your actions. So what actions do you need to take? And there's 4 actions that you can take. You can take actually a combination of these actions as well. This is the second step. The actions that you can take are thinking about growing within your current role, moving across, which is moving horizontally, if you like, moving up, so that is looking at promotions, or of course there's the moving out. Yeah, maybe your current organization can't give you what you're looking for, so you need to move organizations. There is another one which I have done myself, but I don't recommend it because it's a big risk. And one of the things that I've done in the past, in fact, I've done it twice in my career, is I've actually moved downwards. I've taken a backward step in order to go forward. And I've done this, as I say, on a couple of occasions. One of them where, both of them, I was very clear by taking this backward step, it would actually propel my career forward. And it actually did. In a period of one situation I'm thinking of, I moved from working in travel, in retail, running 21 shops of about 250 people, and I moved into contact centers, and I ended up leading a team of about 15 people. But I could see very quickly that if I could turn that team around, I would be propelled very quickly. And within 9 months, I was made head of the contact center, and I was running a 1,000-seat contact center. But it takes a lot of guts to take that, moving backwards in order to moving forwards. So let's take each of these in a little bit more detail then. So the first thing that I want to talk about is growing in place. So this is growing in your current role, what you're currently doing at the moment. And this is a really good place to start. Yes, there's plenty of opportunities that we have to grow within our current role, and looking for those opportunities to do so. A really good example could be maybe somebody in your team is going on maternity leave. Maybe you could take on some extra responsibilities. Don't wait to be asked for this. Put your hand up, put yourself forward. There's all kinds of things we can do. Learning other teams' work, who we work closely with. Absolutely. These are all brilliant ways of doing that. We don't have to move up the ladder to grow. One really good tip that I give here is get hold of your job description or role profile and take a look at what all the skills and qualities that your role is required of your role. And then what I actually do is I would highlight in green everything that I'm brilliant at. I would highlight in amber things that I'm like, okay, I could improve a little bit. And highlight in red things where I've had very little experience or I've had no experience of. And then I would actually utilize those and find ways of actually getting that exposure, doing that. So it's absolutely possible to grow in your current role. Let's have a look at the next one then, which is about moving across. So this is what's a lateral move. So moving up isn't always the way, moving across. And this is particularly important, you know, that bridging across to another role, if you're looking at a change of careers. I've done this numerous times. And in fact, I think in my last organization, I did about 6 lateral moves because I wanted to get lots of experience in lots of different areas. And there's no shame in actually doing that. You know, when we actually think about our, you know, say, for example, you work in operations and you have an ambition to work in HR. You know, can you expect to get a promotion in HR when you haven't got any experience in HR? No, but your current organization will probably let you do a lateral move and move in at the same grade into HR whilst you gain the experience to do it. So there's loads of advantages of moving across and going into a lateral move that you actually do. It can be done within your own office. It could be done in other parts of the world. Now we're working in this online world. There's so many opportunities that we actually have where we, you know, roles that perhaps were unavailable to us before because we would have had to have moved location, and now suddenly very accessible to us because of the work from home. So moving across is really important. Moving up. Yeah, this is the one where I think so many of us have got our eyes on that prize of moving up. And research shows that people are motivated by the possibility of growing and moving up within their organization. So what that means, moving up grade or moving up position, taking on more responsibility, and many other things like that. And really, you should only be looking at moving up if you have been in a position where you can look at your job description and you can say, right, I can do all of these brilliantly. When you can get hold of the job description for the role that you want to do, and at least be able to do, well, I would say most employers would look at 70% of what that role is. So you should never be going for a role when you're unprepared for it, particularly when moving up, because nobody is going to actually take you seriously. So think about those moving up opportunities. If you've done the know yourself exercises, where you've had a look at your personality, your values, you know, your capabilities, then you'll know what you're capable of. You'll know what your personality, what suits your personality and your values. So moving up is very important. But worst case scenario, there is always the moving out. So moving out of your current organization and moving to another one. Now, again, this could actually be a lateral move. It could actually be moving across into another organization. They might have a different structure, for example. So therefore, what you were doing in your current organization may not suit the needs of the future organization. But moving out is always an opportunity. But I always say, I go back to this old exercise of when you're looking to move out, get hold of the job description or the role profile and do that highlighting, green, amber, and red. Are you really ready for that? But you can actually do that now. If you've got a career in mind, if you've got a role in mind, there's nothing stopping you looking out there. You know, LinkedIn is a great resource for this because they've got loads of jobs advertised, and you can get a copy of the role profile or the job description, and you can think, right, okay, this is kind of my dream job. Where do I fall short of what I need to do? So moving out is obviously an option, but I would say it's always easier to grow within your current organization as long as the conditions are right for you to do so. I appreciate, and let's be honest, ladies, There are times when people are blocking you with that career move. And therefore, sometimes you do need to look outside your organization. So once you know yourself and you know the actions you have to take, our next step, of course, is therefore going about planning our actions. So this is where I want to spend the majority of the time on, because this is where all the meat is, if you like, of the learning and the things that we have to do. So under our planning our actions, that's all about defining your career aspirations and your career goals. It's about creating your career development plan, and I'm going to show you a way of doing that. And then it's about sharing your plan and getting feedback on the plan. And that is really very important. So let's take each of these as an individual topic so that I can show you how you can do this in a very easy and very succinct way. So let's talk about your career aspirations and your career goals to begin with. Now, here are 3 questions that you should ask yourself when you're thinking about your career aspirations. So you should think about, what do I consider essential in life? Which work areas are you good at? And which areas can I get better at? So get better experience at. So I want you to think about these 3 questions and pop, as women, we tend to think that our work should speak for itself. Well, let me give you a big clue, ladies. It doesn't. You have to shout about it from the rooftops. So then let's have a look at career goals then. Now there's 4 questions around this that we need to ask ourselves. What do you want to achieve in your career? Do you need to change your job? That doesn't necessarily mean change your organization. Do I need to gain new experience? And when do you want to achieve it by? So really important that we set smart goals. We need to set ourselves smart goals. Who knows? Okay, so let's just go through this. So S is all about specific, making sure your goals are really focused and you have to identify a real tangible outcome. So for example, I want to lose weight. Not specific enough. We need to be much more specific than that. You know, I want to lose 5 kilos. We really need to understand that. And we also need to identify what resources we need in order to do that. M is all about being measurable. We need to be able to define what success looks like, and then also be able to measure our progress against that measurable. You know, what does that future look like? What are the highlights? What are the lowlights? What is the end goal? So it has to be measurable. So I want to lose 5 kilos. Is that measurable? Yes, because I've got the 5 kilos in there. I'm specific. The A stands for attainable. Your goal should be challenging, yes, but you should still be able to achieve it. You know, if you just come in as a junior in an organization and you say, I want to be CEO in a year, that's not attainable. You're going to get a lot of demotivation from that. So make sure you realize, whilst your goal should be challenging, it still needs to be attainable to you as well. You know, by attainable as well, you need to set out the steps you're going to take in order to attain that goal. The R stands for relevant. You know, as it says here, it's about getting real with yourself. You know, whatever you try to do, it's got to be relevant to what you want to do. You know, if you've got no aspiration to work in HR, for example, there's no point in taking a promotion in HR. You're not going to be happy. You know, it's about making sure, and many of you mentioned happiness when we were talking earlier. So it's very important. You know, it helps you. Being relevant helps you answer the question, why are you doing what you're doing? And then finally, of course, it's all about being time bound. Every goal needs a target date, something that motivates you, something that you can move towards to, but it has to be relevant and attainable as well. So if I just take the one along with the weight again, you know, I want to lose 5 kilograms by 15th of January 2022. Now, is that a SMART goal? So first of all, is it specific? I think that's specific. Is it measurable? Yeah, because I've got the 5 kilos and I've got the date in there as well. Is it attainable? Well, I've given myself a month, so that should be easily, or should be attainable in a month, especially with the amount of extra weight that I'm carrying. They always say the first kilos are the easiest. It gets harder after that. But also I need to have a plan. So there's a bit more detail behind that. I have to have a plan on how I'm going to do it. Is it relevant? Absolutely. I'm sick of buying bigger clothes because I can't fit into my old ones. So it's absolutely relevant for me. And is it time bound? Yes, it is, because I put the 15th of January 2022 on it. So SMART goals, no matter what you're doing, whether it's something as simple as weight management, whether it's setting your career goals, whether it's actually your goals within your organization, your goals for life, it's important to make sure that they are SMART goals. So that's a very important tip that I would share with you. If you don't have SMART goals within your career plan, then everything else is going to fall apart.